welcome to Miss Martin Muses and Pub Crawl. It is another hour of Pub Crawl. I think we're on hour 10. I haven't quite been counting, but so I think by this point we're just drinking water and eating um potato chips. I don't know actually what it's been so long. I don't know what people eat after they've drunk too much. Breadsticks. It's breadsticks.
Is it breadsticks?
Breadsticks, things that are nice and
Okay.
things that'll fill your stomach, but by this point, it's usually too late. But I digress. I am so happy to once again have none other than Maria on the channel, known as the Geeky Crochet, and here she is unlocking lore live. So good to see you, and so happy to hear some of the exciting things that's been going on, maybe with storytelling and like maybe people don't know. Maybe they just think, oh, she's a person who makes those really awesome crochet things, and that is awesome, but she is also a storyteller, and it's something very unique, and I just love it because I think we need more of that. So without further ado, it is Maria.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the awesome introduction. I am so glad to be back on this wonderful channel because it's really awesome, to hang out with people, you just like, you may not agree on everything, but it's awesome to just, say, you know what? I like you. I want to hang out with you.
Yes. Gosh darn it. And not only, see, we completely agree that crocheting is the way to go.
It is the way to go. You gotta just use one. Don't use two, man. I don't know why people use two, but
yeah, I mean, why do something with two needles and the possibility of holes everywhere? That's just
It's not.
Though I do admire the talent, because I was gonna say because I do a show called Hooks and Needles.
Yes.
and when she's on, Elijah will be like, "What the hell?" It's like, no, I do admire it. But we are definitely sisters when it comes to crochet. And if people have not seen some of the Geeky Crochets and some of my creations that we have showcased, there is a playlist here. Before we go deeper into our topic, look who it is. It is Corey Cochran. Hello, Corey. Great to see you. And Steve Kenobi, all the way from the future.
Hello
Teresa and company. I do hope all of you are perfectly splendid today. Well, but on the other hand, give us a report from the future if you can. Is it any better in the future? And of course, it's Unlocking Lore, aka the Geeky Crochet. And look, every evening, everyone, are you ready? Yeah, things are about ready to get wild. We're going to be doing storytelling. So, Maria, let us know what is it being a storyteller? Like, what is it? What do you do? How is it different from other kind of creators?
Okay. Well, storytelling is a performing arts, so I am a performing artist as well.
Mm-hmm.
And storytelling is one of the most ancient ways to communicate and to share lore, wisdom from one generation to another. So it's a really unique way of performing, and it's a very, very deep connection with both your audience and the story and the storyteller. So there's a triangle in this,
Mm-hmm.
So I found I discovered storytelling a little bit more than 10 years ago, while I was doing my thesis on in education, and I found storytelling for learning languages, and I had already encountered storytelling before that. So I thought, well, let's investigate this and take it to the next level. So that's what I did. So I presented my thesis on the influence of storytelling in English learning, specifically in language learning. And then I said, I really like this. I really love storytelling. I've been telling stories, without meaning to. Right now, I'm telling a story, my personal story. And that was like a deep connection, a profound connection. And I just took it off from there.
Wow. I was really kind of moved by what you just said about it's the most ancient form of performing, because that's how we got Homer and all that in the Odyssey. They were just sitting around being Greeks and saying, "Hey, did you hear about Achilles?" And that's how it was passed on.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, it is Positive Fandom. Thank you so much for the super sticker. It's like she has given me a diamond, or maybe she gave you a diamond. But either way, thank you. Thank you for the 99 cent sticker. And please, if you have not subscribed to Positive Fandom, please do so. Yeah, and I guess not just Homer and all them, but
Mhm.
even the Bible.
Yeah.
That was how it was passed along.
Exactly. Well, before there was any writing, everything was passed on orally. And a way for people to remember was a story arc. So you have the beginning, you have the climax, and you have the finish, the ending. And that's how people would relay all these, all these stories even in the Bible, and they could relate to the things, in a more personal sense. So we have you could say texts, or we have images from the ancient Egyptians who would tell stories, to the pharaoh. So we have, you could say, written historical events, that there was storytelling in that era, and it's only logical. I mean, just the fact that say, hey, what'd you do on the weekend, and then you launch a story of what you actually did. No, I went this and this and this and had a great time with my kids, or it was a bad day. We're always telling stories. The thing is that we don't notice it.
And of course, now that you mention it, especially in the Old Testament, when you read like the first few chapters of Genesis, the way there's a lot of mantras, and that was probably to help the storyteller. And then it was good, and then this happened, and it was good. That it wasn't just trying to give us a message; it was a memory device.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, in when you mentioned Homer, there were mnemonics at that time saying, what was it, Penelope? No, it wasn't Penelope. It was oh gosh, Odysseus's wife, the faithful. And like the Odysseus, the brave.
Penelope, wasn't it Penelope?
It was Penelope then?
Yes, phew, because I was gonna have to Google that.
Like, so it was Penelope. I gotta brush up on my Greeks. So all these mnemonics were used so that they could relay the story in a more faithful way. Because obviously when you pass down, from mouth to mouth, you say, oh, what did Teresa did last night? Oh, she had a great time with this storyteller. And it's like, and then, oh, can you tell me what Francis said about Teresa? And then they would pass on, and obviously it changes. So a way to keep the story faithful was through these like techniques in which they would relay the message more faithfully.
Nice. Cool. And of course, you mentioned, all the other ancient civilizations also did that. And through, I think perhaps the most of we amateurs would be this time of year when you're all sitting around the campfire and telling ghost stories. People would take turns telling ghost stories.
Yeah. And it's pretty amazing. Some people have a natural talent for storytelling, and other people develop it through the years, but it's always there. It's always ever present.
Yeah, and so you talked a little bit about your background, but and you said that you've been telling stories and stuff. Did you actually do even more training, or?
So yeah, so after I finished my thesis, well, I did I had another like episode of studying outside of my home country, and then afterwards I trained with online. Obviously, I trained online with one of the most renowned storytellers in the storytelling world. His name is Tim Shepard, and he's based in England. And he took up my case, and it was really nice. I'll be forever grateful to my coach, because for 5 years he's been coaching me on and off on storytelling, and he's a really deep, profound thinker, which is what I love, because my area of expertise is ancient lore. So the traditional ancient, even I would be more specific as Celtic texts, are my like area of specialty within the storytelling community, because you have personal stories, you have modern stories, you have the ancient lore, which is what I like. But what really intrigued me in that line, like you have so many different types of stories, is the fact that it's so profound that you can get so much richness out of one story, um, that it has a deep connection.
Yeah.
So that's the magic that I really liked.
Well, you said Celtic. Have
Yes.
you been have you been to Ireland
No,
or oh,
that is
girl.
one of my dreams to go to Ireland. Right now, if anybody is near Scotland, right now is the Edinburgh International Storytelling Festival going on. It
Ooh.
was one of my objectives to go this year. Unfortunately, I will not be able to go, but hopefully next year I'll be able to take that trip to Edinburgh.
Oh my gosh. As much as I love
Yeah.
Ireland, oh my gosh. That sounds amazing. Wow. And
15 days of pure storytelling.
oh my gosh. And in that environment, because
Yes.
I remember as a little girl, again, these were amateur storytellings, but I had a friend who had a boyfriend had a in his backyard like a tower castle, and we would go in and they would just tell stories. And I swear to this day, it still scares the crap out of me.
Yes.
Or we'd be out in the fields, and my friend would be, "Have you heard of the banshee?" And I was just like, "Oh no, I haven't." I'm 7 years old. This American chick who just showed up. And it stays with me. I can't imagine the
Yeah.
impact. Oh, girl. Okay, well, okay, everyone, when I go to Ireland, we're all gonna meet at Dublin Airport and do whatever it
And
takes to get there. Wink, wink, legally or illegally, I don't care. We're gonna show up.
and if you do go, let me know. I will try my best to be there, but I will put you into contact with storytellers who will do that for a living, basically. So there's one specific storyteller who I meet up with around a month or a month and a half each time.
Mhm.
His name is Richard March. He's an American who has been based in Ireland for the past 40 years, and he reads Celtic. He reads it and he translates it into stories, and he's a professional storyteller, also an author. Um,
Girl.
and
Well, when you say Celtic, you mean Irish, you mean Gaeilge.
yes,
Oh, but probably the older version.
yes,
Girl.
yeah.
Well, oh, that sounds wow, and a book and amazing. And you said about being paid. So if I'm minding my own business, maybe I'm in where you are, up in
Mhm,
a northern hemisphere, more northern than mine, and I want Maria to tell us a grand story for the evening. I have a party or something.
mhm.
Uh, uh, Approximately, what's the field? Maybe not for you. Maybe you can talk about someone else's fee. But how much can a storyteller expect to make for an evening of tales?
For an evening of tales, it really depends on if it's a private event, they'll probably have like a standard fee. I'm gonna
Mhm.
say probably around $150 per hour.
Mm,
No?
that sounds fair. Yeah.
So that's one thing. Now, if you have an event, you would have they would probably, they would probably charge for the entry, you know?
Mhm.
So that would change because obviously the number of seatings or a number of people who would be at the event would be significantly higher than a private event.
Mhm.
So it really depends.
Okay.
But
What you were saying is for me what is very comparable to what I might charge for a
mhm,
singing gig, like for
mhm,
example, a wedding, an hour
sure.
of singing. Um, so what do you say to people that might say $150? Why should I pay $150 for someone to just tell a story when I could do it for free?
Mhm. Well, you could do it for free, but do you have the expertise? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the profundity of actually being connected to the story? Do you have the years of practice in front of
Mhm,
a live audience in order to
mhm.
connect and to engage them in such a way that they will come up to you and say, "This is better than a movie"?
Whoa.
I've
That's a good
had
answer.
people.
That's a
I've
darn
had
good answer.
I've had that kind of comment once and for or a couple of times from people who would just come up to you and say, has been better than a movie. I have actually seen this without actually seeing it. It was so
Girl.
impressive.
And I
So
bet that's really gratifying for you.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Stephen Ransom says, Maria, what are your thoughts on rhetoric through a mind palace, the ancient art of freeform?
Well, I've never actually really thought of it.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of, the mind palace is like a form of memory, you
Mhm.
know? So I guess whatever works for you, you know?
Yeah, the Mind Palace, I've done a little bit of that very amateurly with my
Mm,
history. I've not
mm,
like I couldn't say I've done it all the time, but yeah, where you
mm,
have like a room, it's like, oh, okay, this is
mhm.
where I'm gonna remember this part of it, and
You see, that's the thing, because every storyteller, and this could be, and it actually can be a good use in for different people. I wouldn't use a mind palace personally, um, because it's not my forte.
hmm
Why? Because what I do is I basically describe my journey with you. So
hmm
every time that I read a story, and this is a good difference between when I connect with something and when I don't.
hmm
I can actually visualize what I'm reading. So when I, connect with a story, I can see it, and then afterwards I remember those images and that journey and describe it to you.
hmm
So that is my way of going through, a memory process in storytelling. I do not learn words by heart. So like stories for word, I don't do that. There
hmm
are some people who do learn it word by word, but usually these are storytellers that go for sacred texts. And there are some cultures, I have heard of them, that do have that training, because they want to relay those stories exactly as they are, because they are sacred texts for them.
Mm, good point. And Stale Messiah says, I think this is a good analogy. The difference is that of spending an evening telling jokes
Hmm.
and going to watch a real stand-up comedian.
Yeah,
hmm
it's true.
Yeah. Yeah, my folks, they went to see relatively recently Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld, and they were like, it was one of the most amazing things. He filled entire theater balconies, just totally sold out, huge theater. And he said, and he had everyone rolling laughing, that's the
Hmm.
skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that just sounds like so much fun. And now on your channel, I've
Hmm.
seen you tell your stories, and it's enthralling when I have listened in, and it's been a while, that's why I'm saying it, but I just remember going, "Dang, she's really telling a good story," and that's here through the screen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you do events or streams maybe for someone else's stream where they bring you on as the storyteller?
So I have had gigs, but mainly right now in schools,
Mhm,
because of this. You said, why would I pay $150 for a storyteller if I can just, tell stories myself? Or usually it's like, oh, you're a storyteller, the kids are gonna love you. I'm like, no, I actually don't. Um, I actually don't specialize in children.
mhm,
Even though I am an elementary school teacher, my stories are more, uh, you could say, a little bit more higher, like
mhm,
intellectually.
yeah,
My stories can be heard by everybody. That's something that I do put out. I do not tell stories that a child cannot hear. It's just that they won't understand it, and sometimes they're very, very long.
mhm.
So
Well,
really, yeah.
you bring up another good point. Automatically, people hear storyteller and they think, "Oh, that's just for children."
So, but one thing before we go into that thing, for example, I have been trying to get into the public library system. I
Mhm,
did present my Unlocking Lore program to them, which is Ancient Tradition Tales. My coach and my friend from Ireland have both vouched for me, because the public library did actually get in touch with them.
mhm.
I had totally forgotten, and when they wrote to me, I'm like, "Oh, did I put you as reference?" And they're like,
Oh,
"Yep." And like, "Oops." He's like, and well, they said beautiful things about me that I believe I don't deserve, but
mhm,
but still, and like last week, one of the branches got in touch with me,
Hmm.
and she was like, "Okay, well, yeah, I mean, that's great, thank you. I am available, but just remember that I specialize in traditional tales if that's what you're looking for.
Hmm.
Hopefully, it's not only for children,
Hmm.
because yes, that's the reaction that I get. Oh, storyteller. Do you do kids,
Hmm.
parties? And I'm like, no,
No.
I don't.
Yeah. Well, it's the same way that Tolkien and G.K. Chesterton did so much writing that fairy tales are not for children. And
Mhm.
in that it is, but people for several reasons associated it with children, and it's like no, and Disney of course hasn't helped that that
Well,
perspective.
actually, here's something interesting. So back when I was studying in Rome for a couple years, completely like uh, digressed in my studies. I did do a research on the Brothers Grimm and their
Mm,
stories because their 100-year mark was coming up for one of the. I don't know if it was their birthday or 200
mhm,
years or something. So apparently, I learned that they did not write the stories, but they actually just, got them from folklore.
mhm,
And from what I found out, they had to change Hansel and Gretel a
mhm,
little bit, because in the original tale, it was the mother who had sent them off and
mhm.
into the forest, and not the stepmother, and that was very scandalous. I mean, it must be scandalous nowadays, but even more so then. So they changed it from the mother to the stepmother. You know?
Interesting. Yeah, and they left a lot of the sexual stuff to
Out.
innuendo. Yeah,
Yeah.
out or to innuendo.
Yeah.
But they kept surprisingly some of the violence in
Well,
for Cinderella.
we do say for some reason, and this is something that I like kind of thought about. It's like, oh, that's very grim. You
Uh-huh.
know, it's like, why would I say it's very grim? Well, the Grim Reaper, maybe, but the Brothers Grimm is like, who? Well, their stories are not exactly light. They're
Mm-mm.
very dark stories, and I was surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. Shameless plug. I have a biography on the Brothers Grimm because I have studied them as an essayist. But so
Oh,
that's where my skill is
okay.
in my published writing is in essays, nonfiction,
Hmm.
which is a different kind of storytelling, but
Yeah.
obviously not live or not a performing arts aspect of it. But yeah, I love the lore and everything. Positive Fandom says, I used to recite stories like Snow White, Rose Red, and sing some parts as well. I grew up listening to records with story and memorized them. Hmm.
So you reminded me of something really nice. One of my favorite stories is called East of the Sun and West of the Moon.
Hmm.
If you have time to listen to that, I can recommend either my channel or another storyteller's channel who does this story fabulously, much better than I do. And I remember that I had a huge poster and a cassette tape, and I would lie down on the poster and put on the cassette tape, and I would read that story over and over again. And that stuck with me
Hmm.
from when I was, what, 13 to when I was 30. So,
Wow.
and I remember it's like East of the Sun, West of the Moon, a big bear. And then when internet started to, be a little bit more accessible to everybody, I found the story after years. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and I
Mm,
remember this as a kid. So yes, um, I would listen to this specific story. One of my favorites.
wow. For me, I had a cassette, I believe Burl Ives, of Beauty and the
Uh-huh.
Beast, and
Yeah.
where it dings and it turns the page. And this is what fascinates me because I was probably 4 or 5 where I have a living memory of it.
Hmm.
And I was told I was also the same way about Sleeping Beauty, but especially Beauty and the Beast, that one always just stuck with me. Like my mom's like, yes, I'll listen to it over and over and over again. 40 years later, I'm still obsessed with Beauty and the Beast. I mean, it's just amazing how, of course, I've read the French version, I've read all these different versions. I love the Disney. I have, art of Beauty and the Beast
Yeah.
on the wall. It's just amazing that what we have as children stays with us. And of course, I heard it, and I think if I heard you correctly, that when you say that children can hear it, but they might get bored or whatever. But that's one thing about great stories too.
Mm-hmm.
As children, they can kind of get it on a surface level, while the
Mm-hmm.
adults get it on a deeper level, and that's what makes them universal.
Yeah. And something that you mentioned also is that I was discussing this a few months back with this Irish friend of mine, and we both agreed that children can handle these kind of dark tales.
Hmm.
We kind of sugarcoat it, and Disney does this. And I mean,
Hmm.
they're entitled to do whatever. What they do is they take the story and they sugarcoat it and they put it on, give it to the children, and everything's fine. But we kind of underestimate what children can actually listen to, and what they actually, can bear.
Hmm.
So I say do not underestimate the kids in listening to, a little bit darker tales.
Yeah. Well, and part of the darker tales, there was also a moral, like maybe about moral living, but
Hmm.
warnings. And this reminds me of something Snail Science talking about the Black Forest.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like, don't go out, into the woods. That you got a big bad wolf.
Hmm.
There's always aspects of it that children can get out of it, intentional or otherwise. And if I've been into the Black Forest, and I can tell you what, I can
Hmm.
understand why they had all those scary stories set in there. That place is creepy even nowadays. You can't see a thing once you can step like 5 feet, and that's it. It's all dark, trees all around you. Have you had the
Wow.
pleasure?
No, I
No. Okay.
haven't.
Yeah.
It's so sad. I'm still missing a lot of stuff, but
Mm.
eventually. And if not, well then, that's what God has planned for me.
Yeah. Speaking of what God gave you, you studied in Rome, for crying out loud. When you said that, if you could have seen me, I was like, oh, my jaw drops. I'm like, you might have said that before, but I forgot. I'm like, oh, I'm just studying here in Rome. It's like, that is amazing. Absolutely amazing. The art there. I only went to Rome once, and it stuck with me. And my father, even to this day, he says the most impressive thing he ever saw was when he was
In Rome.
in Rome and St. Peter's, and looking up and seeing that Sistine Chapel. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I only saw that once. Don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
That's not really easy to access.
No.
And I saw it because my parents went to visit me.
Yay.
So it's like, yay, I get
Yeah.
to see it,
Yeah.
you know.
But the other beautiful thing about Rome, you can just be skipping down the street, and oh, here's a fountain
Yeah.
that this dude did, and oh, Michelangelo did this. Or you're just in church, in a normal little parish church, and there's a little statue. It's like, oh yeah, it's Michelangelo did that,
Yeah.
and it's just like, dang.
Well, here's a funny anecdote from my days in Rome. So I got into contact with I got into contact with a storytelling group
Mm.
there. But it was kind of like a blind date because a friend of mine, another storyteller friend of mine who lives in Germany, he said, "Oh, I know this group." And it's like, I want to get into touch with storytellers there.
Hmm.
And he said, "Oh, check them out. I like them, etc., etc." So it was a really interesting night. Obviously, I did not know a single word of Italian, like zero.
Hmm.
Um, but I still was there with a bunch of friends, and it was really, really like a clash of culture, because the first thing that they did was eat.
Of course.
They ate so much. There was like so much food, and I had not brought anything because I didn't know.
Hmm.
And I felt like so bad because it was like, oh my gosh, it's like everybody's eating, everybody's like, "Ah, sa
Hmm.
mangiare," and then they would all sit down and listen to the stories. So
Hmm.
it was like, oh my gosh. So it was kind of like, well, it's not really my thing, and they're very, very dramatic.
Hmm.
That's another thing. The Italians are very dramatic in their stories. They did ask me to tell a story, which I did, which it was called uh the pickpocket. You know, a very, very short story, and we did like a simultaneous um translation. So I would say parts of it in English, and then they would translate it to Italian for the audience. So
Hmm.
it was fun, but it wasn't really my thing.
Yeah. Yeah, understandable. Well, and it's interesting that you said that because that's definitely very Italian, and even their music is very much like that.
Yeah.
And you didn't mention, but was there lots of wine flowing as well?
Yes,
Yeah,
there was wine, lots of wine.
yeah. Italy's one of the strangest places because you can sit and just eat 10,000 pounds of food, drink 10 gallons of wine, and lose weight. I mean,
Yes.
I don't know what it's. Maybe it's the quality of their food, or you have to walk everywhere, but it's
Oh, definitely. Well, that unfortunately that did not happen to me,
Oh,
but
well. Oh, well.
but yes, I mean, yeah, it's just that you have to walk everywhere. You
Mhm,
cannot move around in Rome unless you live like on the outskirts. That's
mhm.
when you would have a car. If not, you take the bus or you walk,
Yeah,
basically. So,
and that was my experience in Ireland too. I wish we could do more, and of course, bicycle riding. Now, you said about storytelling, you told,
mhm.
like, this story about a pickpocket. Have you ever created your own stories?
So I tried to write a couple stories, but I did not do well.
Mm,
So I'm more of a story collector than a story creator.
that's fair. Well, there we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do something similar with elementary music where my thesis master's thesis was still is not approved yet. The collection of fairy tales. I'm not fairy tales. Folk songs. Sorry,
Oh, nice.
rather, and and each of them go with a certain element
Mhm,
of teaching music. There's a
mhm,
method to that and they come from a lot of Spanish songs, Mexico,
mhm.
New Mexico, American, England, and Ireland, and a few French and stuff. So it's similar. It just is striking me how similar that is, but you're just collecting lore
Mhm,
in a different
mhm.
way.
So here's the thing. So one would ask, well, what's your medium? Because right now
Mhm.
everything is like everything is written down, and as you know, a person who studies essays, you know that the written word and the oral word are
Mhm.
two completely different formats, right?
Correct. Hmm.
So I have two ways of learning my stories. One obviously is through reading. So I can show you one of my favorite books that I have in the back here, and I just recently got this from Peru, like literally 2 weeks ago, or
Cool.
probably a month ago. So this is classic folk tales from around the world. A great book. I highly recommend it. I got this for $5.
Hmm.
A nice, you know, and it
Dang.
and it brings so many stories. I don't know. Like these are all the stories that I have.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, I have not read all of them.
Yeah.
So I just flipped through them, and then whatever really touches me, really connects with me, I reread it, and then I imagine it, and then I translate it into my words, trying to keep the essence of the story to pass it on. So that's one way. And then the second way is I really like to listen to podcasts. I really like listening to other storytellers, and that's another way.
Ooh, that's a very good point. Yeah. Uh, It's like where if you're trying to study great art, you study the masters. Same
Mm-hmm,
thing with storytelling, the
mm-hmm.
art of that. That's fun. I may not have just looked that up and put that in my box from Amazon in my checkout thing. $7 hardcover. Because with the second you did that, I was like, oh my gosh.
It's a really nice book. So this is the second time that I get this book. The first time it was given to me by a friend. It was a soft cover, a
Hmm.
storytelling friend who I helped out when she was in Peru. I was living in Cusco and she went to visit. And I'm like, don't worry, I'll get you the cheapest place and the nicest place in the center of Cusco. I will make it easy for you, and just have fun. But I will be there because I work. And she brought me this book and it's like, I can get this for $5. So here's your copy. Unfortunately, I lost it in one of in a flood
Oh,
that like ravaged my entire house. I lost books. I lost,
oh,
yeah, and it was one of the treasures that I lost. And then that was back in 2017, and recently in 2021 I was able to get it back. I was able to purchase a second one. So
oh, girl. Yeah. Though I just love the way you're like, oh, yeah, I was here. I was there. I was everywhere. Everywhere except Scotland.
no, I have to go to that international storytelling festival. They
Yeah.
say it's amazing.
Yeah. For the longest time, I was able to get away with going to Cork, Ireland, where that's my home base, uh, every year because they had a conference,
Mhm.
and I was able to get teacher professional development hours out of it. And it's like, yeah, I've got to go to this conference. So there you go. And you would get, I don't know if you need any credits, but I when that's what I'm saying. When I say I haven't gotten this master's approved, because I am a perpetual college student, and it's just a matter of I need to spend the money. And I'm like, well, I don't want to spend the money right now, but I got the thesis all done, and it's and I just need to get it orally approved rather, and then that.
Mhm.
But you never stop learning, even if it's not
Yeah,
college credit or
it's true. And it's
whatever.
amazing because these there is no college for storytelling, for example. You work with it with the craft.
Hmm.
You go professional when you practice. So
Yeah.
that's why I started my storytelling channel, because I didn't have a medium to practice. So I was living in Peru, for those of you who don't know me. I just recently moved to Canada, and for the past 20 years, or maybe 15 to 20 years, I was living on and off, but I was living in Peru, where I had no connection with storytellers, like zero.
Mm.
I was basically almost the only one. And I did meet a few storytellers, but we didn't really get to a good connection. I did have some issues with them, and is I was just basically flying solo.
Hmm.
So afterwards, it's like when I got here, I'm like, where are they?
Hmm.
They're still a little bit hidden, but there's more storytelling here than there was in Peru.
Wow, that's interesting because you would think that in places like Peru, you might have more. You speak. I'm assuming you speak Spanish then.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so do you ever do storytelling in Spanish, and how is it kind of different if you're doing the traditional
So
South American
that's a
ones?
very good question. Um, I tried. The thing is that my upbringing has a lot influence in my storytelling. So I was born in Peru, but I was raised in Canada. So I have like an English North American mindset
Mm,
and way, and like I manage myself in this way or that. Very very different from the normal Peruvians. So I tried to learn Peruvian traditional tales, and I sucked so bad that I did not try it again. So in Peru, I did launch my storytelling club at a private university. It
mhm,
ran for about 3 years until obviously everything shut down in 2020.
yeah.
But there was a good friend of mine now, and she's a former student from there, and she would tell these traditional Peruvian tales so well. You could see that she connected with them. And I'm
Mhm,
like, girl, this is your field. Now she studied economics and she's working in it, but storytelling had helped her also to have a presence in presenting, and a stage presence.
mm.
And she just rocked in Peruvian traditional tales. I did one presentation and I could just feel it, like it was bad.
Okay. Well, no, and that's fair because sometimes you got to find what works,
Yeah.
and while you can study, for example, all the Mexican folk songs I learned that
Mhm,
I would do with the little ones.
mhm.
Yeah, it kind of fell flat. Even they would be like, "You're kind of doing it wrong," and I'm like, "Well, what?" Because these with little kids, of course, those are things that they'd already known on the playground.
Yeah.
So I would be like, "Well, hey, why don't you all sing and I'll join in?" Because
It's
there's
true.
something about the culture too. I mean, sometimes it can just, for example, in my case, be way too Northern European.
Mhm. I just learned that you cannot force a story. With
Hmm.
that experience in mind, because they asked me at the university, "Hey, we're gonna have international students. Could you please tell some traditional, Peruvian folk tales?" And I'm like, "Sure, I can try."
Hmm.
It was not my forte, but I can try. So so I started reading and researching for a couple, and I thought, oh, this one is interesting, and I try to force them. That's when
Mhm.
I said that when I connect with the story, that's when I like integrate it into my repertoire, because you know, um, it there is like an empathy.
Mhm.
It's really difficult to actually grasp it, but there is an empathy between the story and the storyteller. So
Mhm.
when I tried to force the story, it just came out so wrong, and I'm like, no, I cannot force it.
Mhm.
That's a lesson I learned the hard way.
Yeah. Well, but sometimes that's the best way because
Hmm.
you got to be true to yourself. And just because a person may not be good at this, it doesn't mean they suck. It just means that's not for you. It's
Yeah.
for someone else to do.
So I did tell stories in Spanish. They don't come out as powerfully in English as in English, but
Hmm.
that I can do it. Yes, I can.
Hmm. Oh, cool. Well, there you are. And from birth, like, are you bilingual from birth on that,
Yeah,
or oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. So my parents brought me to Canada when I was 4.
Mhm.
So I assimilated English from the environment, and my parents always um, they always made me speak Spanish at home, so I didn't lose
Mm.
that language. And then they forced me to go to French immersion school. So
I was about ready to say, and French too, and it's not even normal French; it's weird French.
it's not French, it's Quebecois.
There you are. Well, I know there's arguments about that. If, of course, the Parisians would probably have something to say about which is the real one. One thing I know for sure is that I am an enemy of the Académie Française for my crimes against the French language. No matter what I try, I'm terrible at French. but but yeah, that's just the way it is. I'm very Germanic. German, and well, Irish was my first second language, and then
Okay.
German, and then bad French, and my goodness, and Latin. But Latin, of course, that's more memorization from the
Yeah, it
singing
is.
and from the
I
prayers.
I really didn't never really liked Latin. I took 4 courses of Latin,
Oh dear.
but I never really liked it. I like Greek better.
Oh,
So,
Greek. Oh,
yeah.
so you study Greek too?
Yeah, so in Rome we had a couple of courses in Greek. So I can read it, and
Hmm.
with a dictionary I can translate what it says. I can't speak it though.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, that's
It's
pretty
something.
impressive. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Sorry, I'm just like,
Surprises, eh?
okay. My connections with that, like, well, Latin, I never studied it. It was just singing and
Yes.
prayers from mass, just what you
Mhm.
say in mass, and lots of singing, lots of gigs in Latin and in
Yeah.
choirs, and in Italian as well. For the singing, but it's all memorization
Mhm.
for me there. But wow, girl, I gotta get you to Ireland, and we're gonna go to
What?
mass. We're gonna go to mass in Irish because
Oh,
I
that'd be
always, yeah, I always go to mass in Irish on there. I find an Irish language one, and the beauty of those ancient words in the language, of the
oh,
Irish
wow.
is, oh, there's nothing more beautiful this side of heaven. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
good times. Um,
And then we would go to a pub and have a nice ale, right?
yeah, a pint of harp. Or Guinness, or a
Nice.
glass. That's one thing I like about Ireland. Women can get away with a glass because it's like, dudes, yeah, yes, too much. But I digress. Even though this is a pub crawl, this is
It's
late night pub
I was
crawl.
gonna say, it's like, I need my beer here. I'm
Yeah.
missing my beer.
Oh, I know. Sometimes people are like, "But I don't drink." It's like, I don't drink either. I don't drink anymore. But it's like it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. Speaking of which, I usually ask people to find a pub for us to meet in. Do you have a pub you want to give an honorable mention to?
I actually haven't gone to a pub since I arrived here, so I can't say.
Oh, well, it can be real fictional, like from a book or from a
Oh,
story.
yeah, absolutely. Let's go to the Prancing Pony.
Yay, the prancing pony! Everyone loves the prancing pony when the ring race are not there.
Yes.
And speaking of a great storyteller, though, obviously using a different medium, J.R.R. Tolkien,
Respect, man.
very,
Respect
yeah,
Tolkien.
respect, totally respect, yeah. Let's see. We got him in here. All right. Well, before we go into roll 7, anything else you would like to share about storytelling and being a storyteller that you haven't already?
Um, Yeah, there was this. Okay, I don't know if you've ever had this experience before, but I have seen what they call the storytelling listening or story listening phase. I don't know if you've ever seen that phase.
No.
Okay. So this was one of the most impressive things that I've ever seen. I was telling the story of it was a horror story. Well, technically a horror story, but it
Hmm.
wasn't really. Of Jack the Soldier. And I was telling it to a group of high school students. The teacher, I was working at a language institute in Cusco, and she was an American. The teacher, she's like, "Please, I cannot for the life of me handle this group. Come to my class and tell a story." And I'm like, "Sure." And they were at advanced groups, so I could like speak English like easily.
Hmm.
So I started telling them the story, and like at around minute 10, they were like,
Oh
I
my.
kid you not, they were like gone. So I had to get myself out of the story myself because I get also entranced in what I see in my imagination. I just tell it. And I had to, get myself out of it, and I started to focus on the faces of each student, and it was mind-blowing. It was jaw-dropping. They were just entranced. And then later on when I finished it, they came out because what I
Yeah.
do is I take you on a journey in your imagination, but I have to lead you there and I have to lead you out safely. So when I finished the story, they kind of like woke up, you know? I did
Yeah.
not hypnotize anybody, but it was just so impressive. And then the teacher later on afterwards, she came to thank me from the bottom of her heart, almost on her knees, tears on her eyes. Like, it was so good. They were quiet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did you see their faces? And she's like, yeah, I have never seen them like that. It was, yeah, mind blowing.
Wow. I've never heard of that, but now that you mention it, yeah, it did. What you're describing almost sounded like hypnosis, but I know obviously it wasn't. But I've gotten that way when I've been so into a story, usually a ghost story where someone's
Mhm.
telling it really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they do a
So
jump scare.
it's what they call the storytelling trance.
Storytelling trance.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you kind of go into a trance because not because of the storyteller wants to hypnotize you, but because your own imagination just, you know, envelops you or it grabs onto you and you're just immersed in that. So without meaning to, huh?
Yeah, no, I'm googling it right now. I'm like googling it, like deep listening to a story. That is amazing. And you see, and I can imagine you're minding your own business thousands of years ago. You just discovered fire, so you're excited and you're all sitting around a campfire, and then a
Yeah,
storyteller comes and gets you into that.
yeah.
So wow. So that's an amazing experience. Have you ever experienced that at another time, or this is just the most profound?
This was the most profound, but I have had those experiences through my professional life as a storyteller. Some other times I was asked by a public library in Peru to tell a story right after a presentation of a book, and I'm like, "Are you sure?" It's like mine is like different medium. She's like, "Yes, please." And then after I told the story, I had people come up to me and say, "This was the best part of the whole book presentation. Thank you."
Yay. Oh, that is
Yeah,
so gratifying.
it is.
Well, there you go, everybody. So I did put the link in the description and in the chat if you want to hear more storytelling or get
More than welcome.
storyteller yourselves. Wow. Well, it's time now. We're time to get into
Yep.
the roll seven, the pub crawl game here. Everyone in the chat is also free to participate. Here we go. Oh, wait. Let me get the questions.
Oh
Sorry.
boy.
Yeah, I had it closed, my little box where I keep all these things because a cat showed up and she likes to play with things she's not supposed to. All right, here we go. First roll, first roll. Boom. Okay. Maria,
Yes.
if you could remove one invention from the world, what would it be and why?
I can remove one invention of the world, what would it be and why? Oh gosh, that's a really tough question.
Mm.
One invention. TikTok.
Nice.
I would remove TikTok.
Yeah, it's taking over the brains of our young ones.
It's impressive. I'm working right now with a Gen Z, and she says that she had to eliminate TikTok, and she's getting like all anxious for her friends because they can't sit through a movie, like a good movie.
Oh, yeah, because they have no sense of anything.
No, they don't have they can't concentrate anymore for more than a short span.
Maybe that's why everyone's going crazy, because the first generation to really grow up with this is now coming of age. Hello, Ashley Wester's Crochet and Knitting channel. Speaking of hooks and needles, yay! Hello, thank you for being here. You know Ashley?
No,
Wester?
I do not.
Oh, okay. Well, now we do know. Well, maybe we'll check out your channel. Both of us are crocheters, but we enjoy it a great deal. And thank you, Ashley, for being here. Next, if you could have dinner with one famous person, living or dead, who would it be?
Dang, just one? I can only choose one?
You can only choose one.
No, can't I do a few more? Oh man, if I could choose one, can it be two genres, like two different people?
Nope, one.
Oh gosh, man, I want to say Tolkien, but then I would really like to talk also to John Paul II. And then there's other people. Okay, I'm gonna go for Tolkien this time.
Okay, going to a pub and chit chatting with him.
Yes, yeah.
All right, so J.R. Tolkien, and John Paul II gets an honorable mention there. What would you do if you were the only human on Earth?
Oh, I would probably prepare my soul, because I'd be left alone.
Yeah, it'd be so lonely.
It'd be so lonely.
No one to tell stories to.
No, I would end up with Wilson.
Oh yeah, you'd be telling stories to a volleyball. Oh dear.
Oh, congrats! You're almost at the 100.
Yeah. Everyone, let's get her to 100. Nice. Oh my goodness gracious! I'm just imagining you with.
And you know what happened, Wilson? That's terrible. This bird came in and just ate my food. It just swooped in and just grabbed something that I had.
Yeah. There you go. Now I kind of imagine you doing that. All right. What would you do with $1 million?
Oh, I'd probably invest it in some sort of financial, and make it grow. And then I like an RSP. And then I'd leave it alone, and I keep on working so that I can have for my retirement.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Or you would go to the Edinburgh Festival.
I'd definitely set it aside a little bit to go to the Edinburgh Festival, and then I would invest it. Yeah.
All right. So responsible. What's an annoying question you've ever been asked?
An annoying question? I think the one that, so how many do you tell stories for children?
Yeah.
That is probably the most annoying question out of everything that I do. Crochet, performing arts, painter, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most annoying one, because it's like a cliche.
Yeah. And almost like belittling too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's just for children.
Yeah, exactly.
And those that work with children know children are never simple in any case.
No.
What's the most immature thing you do?
Are you sure you want to know?
That you'd be willing to share online.
The most I cold shoulder people.
Oh.
Yeah, I do. It's immature because I should be like I should be better than that. But no, I cold shoulder people sometimes.
Well, do they have it coming though?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, well there you are. Well, you can culture isn't always bad. It can be done in an artful way. The whole, what is it they call Irish diplomacy? The art of telling someone to go to hell in such a manner that they look forward to it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So everyone, if she's giving you if you think she's giving you the cold shoulder, she is. So, it's not your imagination.
No.
Let's see. What's the one thing you can't live without besides loved ones? What's the one thing you can't live without?
Oh my gosh, that's so hard. What's the one thing that I can't live without apart from loved ones?
And that can't, God is in that as well. You can't say Jesus. That's
Oh,
cheating.
okay. Okay.
That's cheating.
Okay. Right. I was gonna say is like, well, like, technically speaking, I can't live without art in general, like at all. I can't live without beauty. You take away beauty, whether it be sound or sight or me just scribbling or something, and I'm lost forever.
Wow. You're right. I would agree with that. Without beauty, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
That's
I'm
why
a very beauty searching person. So you take that away from me and you just kill me.
Yeah. And I think that's why we all have such a visceral reaction to a lot of the art that's being destroyed nowadays, whether
Yeah.
it's film, whether it's novels, whether it's literal destruction of art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You just can't. It's too beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wow. Well, that is our seventh question. Believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. We were in a storytelling trance there. No, not literally, obviously. I would love to. Gosh darn it, you're making me want to learn more about
season 2, episode 2, storytelling.
Yeah, no. Well, hell yes. Well, yeah, we can do that with our next crochet one with like storytelling with crochet.
Yeah.
I don't know, because there's stories behind everything. You can make a story about anything. Ahoy, friend, says Roman of the Empire. Hello. Thank you for being here. We're just about ready to get out of this fun time because it's approximately was it 7 in the morning, and it's because I usually our pub crawls usually start around 7 in the evening, and then we have hour 1, hour 2, hour 3.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the dawn's starting to come up, and we're about ready to get dehydrated. So we're gonna be heading home soon. The final. Actually, I think this is the season finale. I don't think, because we're gonna. Oh no, wait, we've got one more. My fault.
Okay.
One more. That'll be 8:00 in the morning, and then yes, we're going to go and recover, get an IV from the hospital, whatever we need to do to replenish our bodily fluids, and then 19K Fox will be kicking off night 3. So we're gonna start off with a bang. So where can we find you, Unlocking Lore, Maria, the Geeky Crochet?
Well, on YouTube, as you know, you have it here, Unlocking Lore. That is my YouTube channel. You can find me there. I am not telling any stories right now. I'm kind of still in the process of finding, myself in the new settings that I have. That's one thing. If you're interested in interacting with me, I do interact a lot. Well, less now, but I do interact more on Twitter and on Instagram, and that will be the Geeky Crochet. I have here this is why it's called geeky and crochet. So I crochet geeky stuff. Very pretty. Sailor Jupiter there. got a couple of my works, and I sell these. So, and in my Instagram account, it's more of me being an artist in general. So I publish there my photographs, my latest art things that I've been doing, sketches, paintings, more than and obviously crochet things that I'm doing. So that is my Instagram account. I do like to interact with people, so feel free. I recently posted my some ideas for inspiration for pumpkin carving because I love to carve pumpkins on Halloween. I usually do 2 really nice intricate designs.
Nice.
So, but I do have it narrowed down. So I think I already have my 2 ready, for this upcoming 31st.
Sweet. Well, that's going to be loads of fun. So yes, please follow her at the Geeky Crochet.
Nope. Is it just me?
Breakdown? It's like, what happened? I hope all's well. I don't get kicked out. Well, you can find me here at Miss Martin Muses, where I talk about what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. Got some of the scary movies I've been watching. I got some reviews of those coming up. Also, live streams that may or may not be happening. It will just depend because things are happening in real life. But sometimes you will see if everything's okay in my life. Usually on Wednesdays we do We the People Wednesday, where we talk about documents from the founding fathers. Sunday, Catholic Explaining. Monday, musings, or any other musings that come into my head, and of course Pub Crawl. So thank you everyone for being here. It was a good time as always. Thank you, Geeky Crochet, Maria, Unlocking Lore Live. I am really fascinated now with with all of these this whole concept of the storyteller, and I am going to be watching probably YouTube videos all night about the storyteller. I mean, it just popped up all these things. I'm like, oh, I want to see those faces. Some people call it the storytelling trance.
Yeah.
Yeah, story listening trance. There we go. Well, I guess every teacher on the planet would be jealous of being able to do that. Just put the kids in a trance.
It was fun.
Yeah, that's a great time. All right. So we're going to go ahead and end this party. Thank you for everyone for being here. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great day. And be certain to go and give some love to your local storyteller.
Please do.